Tuatara.
Piripi kicked off his shoes and socks before relaxing on the sofa with Tinaka the black cat lying on his lap. It had been an interesting day at school, then rugby practice. In a few minutes he was going to have a shower. He would look at his homework after dinner. Koro was preparing food in the kitchen. Suddenly, Piripi felt some sharp pains in his legs. Tinaka was no longer lying peacefully, but had got up, arched her back, stretched her legs, and extended her sharp claws. Piripi was just about to remove the cat when the cat did the moving, digging her claws in even further for a millisecond, then launching herself off his lap and scampering behind Koro's armchair. Strange, thought Piripi. She is usually off into the kitchen when Koro is cooking, particularly if she hears a tin opener being used. Piripi rubbed his legs where there were some small red spots appearing, while Tinaka had worked herself to the front of Koro's empty chair and was peering underneath it and stretching her paw in an attempt to reach something. Piripi stood up. Taking a handkerchief from his pocket, he dabbed at the scratches, then looked up in time to see Tinaka leaping up the wall towards a group of photographs of family members, most of whom were dead. There was one of him when he was a baby sitting with his parents, who had died in a motor accident not long after. There was one of Uncle Paula, wearing university graduation stuff, and another, right at the top, of Koro, when he was a young man riding a motorcycle. No helmet, but they weren't essential in those days. Koro had told Piripi about riding with the wind in his hair when he was young. Not even allowed to do that on a bicycle these days, Piripi had remarked at the time. Though, in Coromandel Town, near where they were, if you saw someone with a bike and a helmet, you could almost guarantee they had a backpack and spoke with an accent from some other country. Tinaka by now was staring intently at that photograph of Koro on that old Triumph motorbike, because hanging below there was a small bit of string, and it was moving. Tinaka crouched below, muscles tensed, prepared to spring again when the string disappeared. Nothing. Then in a moment a small body appeared on top of the picture, small black eyes, hands and feet clutching to the picture frame, and a slim dark brown striped body that extended into a tail, which must have been that bit of string. "There's a lizard on your photo, Koro," Piripi called out. He took a couple of paces towards it, collecting a dining chair on the way, and climbed up to inspect it. He reached out to save it, but it was too late. The lizard had scurried down the wall, back behind the armchair. Tinaka pounced. The lizard was now beneath Tinaka's paw, right in front of her nose, and was being subjected to a close inspection, which included sniffing and a tentative lick with her small pink tongue.
"Gecko or skink?"
asked Koro from the kitchen. "Don't know. I can't tell the difference," responded Piripi. "Tinaka's got it now. By your chair." Koro came through to inspect the situation, rescued the lizard from the cat's grasp, picked it up. Tinaka watched for a moment, then strode into the kitchen with a "feed me now" look on her face. The lizard's head was protruding between the thumb and forefinger of Koro's large right hand. The tail extended out the other side and still hanging. The tail itself was still longer than Piripi's longest finger. Yeah, there's this guy at school who's been in my class for years who used to tell me about his huge dog. I saw him with it the other day, and it looks about the same size as most dogs. In fact, it's old and its fur is grey in patches and falling out.
Bit like me. Your friend has probably had the dog since he was small. In those days the dog would have been quite huge, so he wasn't really exaggerating. You used to think that I was huge, but now I'm not much bigger than you.
True. So the giant lizard may not have been that huge after all.
No, can't have. The story goes that the chief kept the giant lizard in a bowl. How big can a bowl be?
Well, you could make a pretty large bowl if you had enough steel. It might be like the cake tin in Wellington where they play rugby.
Don't think so. This chief was before the arrival of the Pākehā, so bowls were mostly carved out of wood. The largest lizard I've heard of is a gecko about 1 foot long.
That's not very big. It's only 30 centimetres.
Yep, that's it, but you give creatures an evil reputation. 1 foot is plenty big enough to be scary. How would you feel if a foot-long wasp flew into the room and landed on your jam sandwich?
I'd be out of here.
So were the chief's enemies. When they got home, they would have told the women in their pa that the lizard was colossal, even if it had only been a foot long. Wouldn't you?
I suppose I would, murmured Piripi. What about Tuatara? They got bigger than 30 centimetres, didn't they?
Still do, but they're not lizards. They may look like lizards, but they are ancient creatures who are survivors from the time of dinosaurs. There were some on the TV news the other day. They were in the Museum of Southland, where there are a couple of really old Tuatara that are breeding. They called him Henare, but I can't remember the name of the female. You could look it up sometime. Sounds like a good idea to me. Have you seen Tinaka? Time she was inside. Koro went to the door and called and shone his flashlight around the area. On an old fallen log about 50 metres away, a pair of feline eyes glowed, reflecting the torch beam. Tinaka heard Koro's voice and scampered inside, looked at the bowl where Koro had placed some fresh food, sniffed it, and then went away and lay on the sofa, licking her paws.